For us to be able to use the cultural inclusivity framework that we discussed in the previous lesson, we need to have tools that we can use to navigate cultural differences in the field. There are many potential tools that we can use to improve our cultural inclusivity. However, in this lesson, we will focus on the following strategies: doing research ahead of the fieldwork, implementing boundaries, developing communication skills, engaging with others from different cultural backgrounds, and planning ahead. We will define each of these strategies, how they fit into our cultural inclusivity framework, and provide an example to help illustrate how you can use these strategies. In this case, the example that will be presented is centered around a simple but critical part of interactions: greetings. Throughout the discussion, we will use greetings as an example, acknowledging that different cultures have different norms and expectations when it comes to greetings. Educate yourself on the different cultures you are engaging with. If you're doing fieldwork in a location with a culture different from yours, whether in another country or a community in a different region, conduct research ahead of time. Educate yourself about the culture in that location and identify how your culture and norms may differ from that of your fieldwork site. If you live in a city, even conducting fieldwork in a rural location means a different cultural and social context. While you might ride your bike everywhere, people in rural communities may drive large four-wheel drive vehicles. Ask yourself why there might be a difference, and try to avoid judgment. Don't put the burden on those who are of a different cultural background to explain, but educate yourself. This builds trust and shows respect and humility. Let's use myself for an example. Maybe I'm preparing for a field campaign where I'm going to meet many individuals from different cultures. I grew up in Puerto Rico, where greeting others with a hug, even people I didn't even know ahead of time, is normal. I recognize that it's not universal to other cultures. So, when I'm meeting the team for the first time, I might ask team members what kind of greeting they're comfortable with, and I won't assume based off my own previous knowledge of their cultural background. Set and implement boundaries. If there's a culturally linked behavior that you are not comfortable engaging or partaking in, it is important to identify and establish personal boundaries, but do so respectfully. By establishing boundaries, we create a space where team members know what behaviors are expected behaviors and can prevent misunderstandings. Following the previous example, I grew up greeting individuals with a hug, which is not universal. Coming back to that gradient of cultural differences and how it impacts and influences our behaviors, this behavior can fall anywhere from being perceived as enlightening or even difficult or uncomfortable. And it will depend on each individual where this behavior falls on that gradient. By identifying personal boundaries and politely communicating them, we can prevent a situation where people may feel like their personal spaces are being invaded. If an interaction crosses this boundary, acknowledge it and discuss it at an appropriate time, and implement change for the future. We will discuss how to do so soon. Develop inclusive communication skills. Encourage and facilitate open and honest conversation with others and listen with an open heart to their perspectives. Open communication and active listening, which are skills that we talked about in Module 5, are critical to building humility and implementing awareness. An open and honest conversation can look like me being approached by a field team member who, because of their own cultural upbringing and background, isn't comfortable with the physical hug as a form of greeting, and would like to make sure that I am aware of this personal boundary. Being an active listener and respectful of others' personal boundaries, I can acknowledge and respect the boundary and thank the field team member for letting me know. This can be done simply by saying, "Thank you for letting me know. I will respect your personal boundary." I could also ask, "What is your preferred way of greeting?" Engage with others from different cultures and backgrounds. Just like when learning a new language or skill set, taking the time to engage with others and being curious to learn more about their approaches, values, and perspectives will help you become aware of cultural differences and be more open to others' beliefs and behaviors. By exposing yourself to different cultural perspectives, you are building awareness and skills at respectfully navigating interactions with people from different cultures. When exposed to a new environment or a culturally diverse group of people, like the example we presented in this lesson centered on greetings, it can be quite easy for me to go and find someone who shares a similar background to myself. However, by deciding to engage with others from different backgrounds, I can learn about others challenge implicit biases that exist, and naturally learn more about how potential cultural differences influence the team and their dynamics. Outside of engaging with others from different cultures and backgrounds, you can learn more about different cultures and experiences by exposing yourself to food, books, TV, music, news, and other facets that influence culture. This is similar to doing the research and making learning a process that does not require asking others from different cultural backgrounds to teach you directly. Plan ahead. Plan ahead of conducting research to address potential cultural differences, norms, and behaviors that could pose a risk in the field. Incorporate what you've learned in your research into existing team documents such as a code of conduct, communication plan, and emergency plans, including reporting mechanisms. Following our example of greetings, I can conduct an initial research on greeting styles from different cultures. I can develop a norm as part of a code of conduct that emphasizes seeking consent for any type of physical contact, even if it is well-intentioned. Before incorporating any of the norms into a team document, such as the code of conduct or communication plan, individuals should bring these new norms to the team for discussion and determine how to incorporate accepted norms into team documents. Even though it's important to be self-aware of cultural differences and try to implement solutions, it is also important to recognize that we as individuals do not have all the answers, and asking for feedback and experience of others will help build team trust and humility. Following our example, during a pre-field planning meeting, I can bring up that I developed a potential norm for the code of conduct regarding how individuals would like to be greeted during the field campaign, and would like to discuss incorporating this norm as a team to gauge the team's opinion of the norm and to determine if the code of conduct is the correct place for this norm. In this lesson, we provided some simple but practical tools and strategies that you can use to improve cultural inclusivity in a field team. Some of these strategies, like engaging with others and doing research, can be practiced and developed daily, while others may only be practiced before or during field expeditions, such as incorporating potential cultural norms or differences in a code of conduct. The key here is to be willing to try and implement these strategies so that they eventually become behaviors and actions that are a more natural part of our social interactions with others. In the next lesson, we will use these tools and strategies alongside the cultural inclusivity framework to identify and navigate scenarios of cultural differences in the field.